Čus bus, v dnešních Vědátorech na pivu se podíváme do Brna a na oddělení astrofyziky. Budeme si povídat s Jolie L'Heureux z Kolumbijské univerzity, která je momentálně v Brně na stáži. Dobrý den, vítejte v dalším rozhovoru Fulbrightovy komise. Dnes si budeme povídat s Jolie L'Heureux z Kolumbijské univerzity, a která je momentálně v Brně na Masarykově univerzitě.
Hi, I'm Jolie L'Heureux and currently I'm affiliated with Masaryk University here in Brno.
And I'm going to switch into English, and my first question would be, what do you study here, and what do you study in general, and why was it important for you to try studying this subject in Brno?
So here in Brno, I'm part of the High Energy Astrophysics department at Masaryk University, and in general, I got my bachelor's degree in astrophysics. And so I am working on studying active galactic nuclei, and active galactic nuclei are active supermassive black holes at the center of galaxies that emit a lot of light and energy. And they also have a lot of dust and gas that orbit them, and so this makes up what we call their accretion disk. And so here I am studying the light curves, which is just a measure of light over time of accretion disks of active galactic nuclei. And it's really cool that I get to study that here at Masaryk University, because the High Energy Astrophysics group is actually working on building a telescope that is going to continue studying these objects further. And so my research can directly go to helping to build and work on this telescope.
And if you are saying active galactic nuclei, this means centers of these galaxies that are elsewhere. Our galaxy doesn't have this active center, or do you study Sagittarius A star in our galaxy and its surroundings itself?
So because I am studying to help build this telescope, I'm actually looking at simulations of active galactic nuclei. And so someone in our research group, his name is Henry Best, has put together a code that simulates what it would be to look at an active galactic nuclei and what these light curves would look like. And so we can kind of like change the parameters, and so we can test out what looking at many different active galactic nuclei would look like. And so I use these simulations, and so we have an idea of testing many different ones. So it's not any real active galactic nuclei in particular that I'm looking at, but simulations of different ones.
This new telescope, what is going to be looking at? Will be like just broadly, or your simulation, will it be broadly focused on just the center, or will be it looking at some events?
So the name of the telescope is the Quick Ultraviolet Kilonovae Surveyor. And so one of the main events that it's going to be looking at is kilonovae, and these are neutron star mergers. But it's really cool because it's actually the first Czech space telescope that is going to be looking in the ultraviolet band of light. And so it's going to be looking at many transient, which is just like events that happen over short periods of times, but many high energy transient events in the universe, such as black hole mergers or neutron star mergers or active galactic nuclei. So just think of any like really high energy events such as this. And another cool thing about it is that it is going to be good for doing like quick follow-ups of these events, and so it can work together with other telescopes that are looking in other bands, such as the infrared band, and we can find out a lot of information about these high energy astrophysical events.
Concerning these events surrounding galactic nuclei, what are the challenges that are connected to your research?
So, like I mentioned earlier, I am looking at simulations of these events. And so something that I found to be challenging is that there's a lot of different parameters that affect the simulations that you need to take into account and look at when you're trying to get data. And so some things are like the mass exponent. So how big are the black holes that we are looking at? How far away are they? There's so many different elements that can affect the data we get. And so trying to figure out what parameters to use and what will be the ones that are most similar to the actual active galactic nuclei that we are looking at is a bit of a challenge, because even like changing one or two of them can really change the data that we get.
And from scientific challenges, what are the other challenges that you encounter during your life of scientist?
So one thing that is a bit challenging for me is how many different areas of astrophysics there are. And so before coming here, one of my focuses I did research on was actually the atmospheres of brown dwarfs. And so and brown dwarfs are an astronomical object that are kind of in between stars and planets. And so they're not massive enough to fuse hydrogen in their cores like stars, but they're also not quite planets. And so I would be looking at different chemical signatures in their atmospheres, such as do they have silicate clouds, or what is the weather like on their atmospheres. And then I did a bit of high energy astro research before coming here, but even within high energy astro, there's so many different types of research. And so I looked at gravitational wave events. And so then coming here, it was the first time I'd ever done any research on active galactic nuclei, and it was also one of the first times I ever really worked with simulations within astrophysics research instead of actual data. And so kind of learning to navigate different areas of astrophysics has been a bit of a challenge because there's just so much to learn and so much information, and everyone around me is experts in their fields. But it's also kind of really cool because it just shows how much we have to learn about our universe, and also it's such a cool opportunity for me because I've already learned so much since being here this year, and maybe I can now continue to study this in graduate school, and I've just been exposed to new areas of astrophysics. It also helps that I'm surrounded by such a great team. I know I can ask them any questions whenever I have them, and it's been really cool.
And what got you originally into science, and what then brought you into Czech Republic?
So as long as I can remember, I've been really interested in science, and I think it's thanks to all the science outreach events and accessible science that I was exposed to from a very young age. And so I remember when I was really little, my mom would always take me and my siblings to the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, and they have really cool exhibits that make science really accessible to little kids, everyone from like little kids to adults. So I would go to the museum and I could like see how much I would weigh on the moon, or watch a planetarium show that would teach me about the planets and stars. And then my mom would always take us to the public library, and I would be able to go and check out books on outer space and other things within science. And then on top of all that, we would also go to a lot of free public outreach events, and I thought these were really cool. It would be amateur astronomers or scientists showing us the stars. Or I remember one time my mom took us to like a field, and there was a bunch of astronomers with telescopes set up, and they let everyone look through their telescopes, and I saw Saturn, and I was just like so in awe because I didn't realize that from Earth you could see the planets so clearly with just a small telescope. And so events like these, and thanks to other astronomers and scientists who made their science accessible to the public, I was able to realize from a young age that science was a career that I was interested in and something that I could study. And then why I'm here specifically in the Czech Republic is that my old research mentor back home, his name is Fritz Perels. He's super cool. He studies high energy astrophysics, and he's actually good friends with one of the head researchers here who's building the Quick Space Telescope, Norby. And so he put me in contact with him, and he was like, he's doing really cool research here in the Czech Republic on high energy astrophysics, and they're actually working on building one of the first Czech space telescopes. And if you're interested, you should go apply for the Fulbright in the Czech Republic. And so I was able to talk to the team here before coming and learn about their research. And I thought it was really cool. So I was like, that is a place that I want to do research.
But what motivated you to look for Fulbright in the first place, for foreign experience?
So Fulbright is a really cool program because it funds you for a year of research, and you can apply for it anytime after graduating from your undergraduate degree. And so I've always wanted to go to graduate school and get a PhD in astrophysics. And in the United States, a PhD takes 6 years to complete. And so I kind of wanted to take a year after my undergraduate to do a year of research. But it is rare to find programs that will fund astrophysics students with just a bachelor's degree to do research for a year. And so when I was looking for programs that would do this, Fulbright was one of the only ones that I found. And so I think it's really cool that they let young scientists come here and have the experience of getting to see what it would be like to have a PhD and get to do research full time. And so I was like, I want to be able to, have that experience before applying for a PhD, and it's been really cool.
You've mentioned you've been here for a year, you've been here for 4 months or something, I guess, but for a year. And what's your current experience, or maybe even what surprised you about the Czech Republic and people here or research here, in a good way or the other one?
I would say research here is really similar to the environments of research groups I've been a part of back home. Everyone is super nice and collaborative and willing to help. And I guess things that surprised me about the Czech Republic, it's all like small, silly things. Like no one really drinks iced coffee as much as I do. I'm the only one in the office really who drinks iced coffee. And so I have to like bring in my own ice cubes and make it. But I like that we have a coffee machine, and so that's good. And like, it's all small cultural things like that. Like, it's different food, but the food here is delicious. It's just different than the food I have back home. And like, you go into a restaurant and you sit down yourself and like you get up to pay yourself. I wasn't used to that. The first time I went to a restaurant, they were like, "Why are you standing by the door? Like, come sit down." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But it's actually in a lot of ways also really similar to being back home. And I think that might be the biggest shock for me, because when I came here, I thought it would be super different. And, you know, most things are pretty similar.
Is there something that you would, you wish you would say to yourself 4 or 5 months ago before you came here? So like some advice that we could also maybe say to future Fulbrighties?
Yes, I would say some advice is to not be nervous. I was so scared before coming here because I was like, I'm going to move to a new country. I'm not going to know anyone. I'm going to be all alone. But just to be really nice and social. I've met a lot of really, really cool and really nice people, whether through my research group, through the Fulbright program, or just people in Brno. It's such a huge student city, and there's so many really cool and really nice people to meet. So not to be scared, but definitely to be social, to help myself make friends. And also, I would tell myself to when I first got here, I felt a little bit overwhelmed by how much stuff I didn't know in my research group, but I would just tell myself to ask as many questions as possible, because everyone in my group is super nice and they want me to learn and they want to help me succeed. And so not to be scared to ask questions, even if you're confused and don't really know what's going on.
Apart from doing science, you are also involved in outreach of science. Why do you think it's an important topic, and what are your concerns?
I think science outreach is really important because, I mean, I think the most important part about doing scientific research is being able to share your results with everyone, even if they don't have a background in science themselves. And so, for me, that's how I got interested in science and how I got interested in space and astrophysics, is all the science outreach events that other astronomers put on. And so for me, it's also a way of like giving back and helping inspire the next future generations of scientists and astrophysicists. And also, it's important that everyone has the opportunity to get to learn about like the beauty of our universe, and also have the opportunity to learn about science. And so if they want to become a scientist themselves, then they know that that's something that they can do and a career path that they can choose. And that's why I particularly like doing outreach with like young children, because I feel like it's important to start this like sense of curiosity and wonder about our universe from a young age, and let kids know from a young age that if they want to get into astrophysics, or if they want to get into science, they have the opportunity to do so.
Is there like one interesting piece of outreach information, like, I don't know, your favorite astronomical object or event or something that you always tell and would be willing to share with us?
My favorite, I guess, piece of astronomical outreach that I like to do in New York City is that in New York City, where I live, there's a lot of light pollution, and so it's really hard to like look up at the sky and see stars. But if you look up at the sky on most nights, you can actually see some of the planets. And so when I point this out to kids or my friends or anyone, they're kind of surprised. They're like, "What do you mean? Isn't that a star?" But because planets are closer to Earth, they're so much brighter in the sky than stars. So even with all the light pollution in New York City, you can still see the planets very clearly. And so I think that's really cool that even in some place like with so many city lights, you can still see the planets. And it's actually very easy to see them, because sometimes they'll be like the only things that you can see in the night sky in New York.
And for our final question, what is the one piece of information about your topics, whether it's outreach or study abroad or astrophysics or brown dwarfs or active galactic nuclei or anything you pick. What is the one thing that you think everybody on Earth should know?
Yes. One thing I think that everyone on Earth should know about astrophysics research is that it's really accessible for everyone to do. And so I think when sometimes people think about astrophysicists or people studying space, they think about like astronauts, or they think about people at NASA with like giant computers, or a scientist like up on a mountain in a planetarium or observatory or with a giant telescope. And these are the ways that people study outer space. But actually in today's day and age, anyone can do astrophysics research as long as they have a laptop and some ideas, because most astrophysics data that scientists use is just data that they download from telescopes, and so they have access to all this data. It's publicly available online, and they just download the data and they do science with it. And so it's really possible for anyone to do this anywhere in the world. And there's also a lot of really, really cool citizen scientist initiatives that a lot of scientists are a part of. So even if you don't know what research to do yourself and you want to get involved, you can join these citizen scientist initiatives and work with scientists to do astrophysics research and make contributions to science from anywhere with any background. And I think that's really cool.
All right, that's it then. I wish you more cool data and more cool experience, or many cool experiences.
Thank you.
And I hope you will have great experience for the rest of your stay. A díky i vám, že jste nás dnes sledovali či poslouchali. Uvidíme se zase příště.